Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining me. My name is Karen Borain, and I'm a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. Today, I'm going to share with you my thoughts around questioning as a coach, questioning as a leader as coach. I hope that you've had an opportunity to watch some of the other short clips that we've had, and from there you would have picked up on listening. And so today we really build on our ability to listen as a coach and build on the ICF competencies and start saying, what else do we need to do? And questioning becomes a really vital part of being a coach. So once we've mastered our active listening skills, we can then make sure that we move on to really ask questions that are an absolute fundamental skill of being a coach. Because those questions really tap into the thinking of our client, which is what coaching is all about. We think about coaching as creating positive change by facilitating improved thinking. And so really, when we look at how do we tap into that thinking, the great tool that we have as a coach is questions. And what questions do as well, which is so important for coaching, they support our client to find their own answers. And that creates great learning, creates great accountability, which is what we want as a coach, so that our clients are growing, they're learning, and they're able to move forward powerfully for themselves. So just some things to think about when you are coaching and asking questions. The first thing is to make sure that your questions are open-ended, that they encourage thinking, that they encourage exploration of thought, of experience, of knowledge. And those typical open-ended questions would start with the words like what, when, how, where. Give me an example. Tell me about it. And we really invite the client to collaborate with us, to expand, to elaborate on their thoughts and provide us with information that is to the benefit of their learning. Sometimes when we've listened, we may need to ask a clarifying question. We want more information or clarification, always to the client's benefit, not to our benefit as a coach, but to the client's benefit, so that we can better understand their perspective. But through asking questions, they can also better understand their perspective, their situation, and they can then clarify not only for us, but in effect very often for themselves. We might also use reflective questions that help the client to really go internally, access all their knowledge, their experience, their thinking. And we need to, as coaches, like with our listening skills, allow them the space to access that knowledge, skill, experience, thought process within their own brains. Let them go inward, internally into their own heads. That is when we remain silent as a coach and allow them that time to reflect. It's so easy to fill the space when there's silence. We might want to fill the space with another question, or we might think when there's silence that we need to re-ask the question because they haven't quite got it. And sometimes what we do is we actually ask a whole new question. It's the same question, but with different words, which then becomes a new question. But in actual fact, asking a reflective question, allowing space for the client to access their thinking, is really, really important. The questions that we ask should be empowering for the client. So we ask questions from a basis of curiosity, but we need to make sure that our curiosity is not to satisfy our own curiosity and just be like, oh, that sounds really interesting, I want to know more. But the questions we ask that we are curious about are really for the client's benefit always as we go through the session. So we can be asking exploratory questions to get different perspectives, possibilities, solutions that will really help to expand the client's thinking and challenge their assumptions. Things like, what have you tried so far that worked? What else could you do? What other options have you considered? So those kind of exploration questions expand the client's thinking, take them forward. We might ask empowering questions such as, which values are important to you in making this decision? As the flow of questions happens, we need to make sure that they make sense to the client, that they are relevant to the client whilst challenging their thinking, moving them forward. And so some of our questions might be future orientated. What steps can you take to achieve your goal? As an example. All the time, I go back to reminding us as coaches to allow for silence, to allow for space. If you ask a question and the client doesn't understand the question, don't jump in and presume they don't. Maybe they're just quiet and they're thinking. Or otherwise, if they really don't understand it, they'll ask us to repeat it. And if they really don't understand it, we can give some context. However, don't presume that. Be confident as a coach to ask your questions, allowing space, allowing silence. And only if the client really needs some clarification because they've asked you or they've said, I don't know what you mean. Could you ask that in a different way? That's when we do. Remembering our focus as a coach is always on the client. And remember, it's not only about silence and space. It's about ensuring that we really genuinely listen to their answer so that when we've heard the answer to our question, we're able to then ourselves as a coach take a minute, or maybe less than a minute, to reflect on what the client has said and then be able to find intuitively the next powerful question to be able to ask them so that they can have the benefit of going into their thinking, reflecting, making new connections, learning and growing as we work with them as a client. So questioning, incredibly important. And as coaches, we need to master the art of questions so that we can expand the client's thinking. We can explore with them. And to do that, we have to always remember that it is about the client and where they would ultimately like to end up. And so sometimes I hear coaches say, when they're learning, we need to ask the right questions. And at the bottom line is there's no set of questions we can give you that says those are the right questions. The right question is found in the moment that is client-based, that challenges their thinking, that moves them forward, and that from our base as a coach shows our curiosity about their potential, their learning, and where they want to go. So questions can be practiced anytime. Next time you're in a meeting, rather than just giving information, pause, reflect, and maybe ask some powerful questions that add value into the meeting. And so we can practice it all the time. We can absolutely have so many opportunities to ask questions. So yes, there are lots of questions out there that are great questions, that are powerful, that challenge the thinking. You can Google great coaching questions to ask. And at the end of the day, as you increase your vocabulary around questions, remember that it's also about being in the moment, being fully present with the client and really listening so that your questions are relevant, they add value, and they are client focused. Thank you for joining me today. And I hope that you consider joining me on the Professional Coaching and Leadership Program, which I present in partnership with Eisenbridge, and look forward to connecting with you on other thoughts around coaching. Thank you.